Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst.
Oh, sorry, cat.
We got an early cameo. Literally
Very
every
nice.
episode we've done so far, I think a pet has made an appearance. So
Yes. I
What
mean, I
is-
have a permanent fixture on my lap, but
What are the animals' names?
this is Katie.
All right,
And
hi,
then
Katie.
and then the kitty that walked by is Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones. No
Oh.
first
Yes.
name, just Mr.
Yep,
All right.
just Mr.
they don't mention his first name in the song, right? So
No,
it's just
they
Mr.
don't.
Jones and me.
Mm,
Yep. Mr. Jones and me, right,
two
bud?
two E's.
So let's just get into like family origins. How did the Bateses end up in Lindenhurst?
So my mom was born and raised here. Her entire family grew up here. Her parents were originally from Queens. They moved out here in the 50s. So she went through the entire Lindenhurst school system, and that's where she ended up meeting my dad. My dad was the same way. He was born in Queens, and then his family moved out to Lindenhurst when he was a young lad. And then yeah, they met. I think it was her senior year of high school. They became friends, and then they ended up dating in their later 20s.
And that was Lindenhurst High School.
Yep, Lindenhurst High School. Oh, sorry, I'm like getting emails over here.
Work never ends
It
when,
never
when you're an
ends.
entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
So what part of town was the house you grew up in?
We grew up in North Lindenhurst, so up by it's right off of 109 near the train tracks over there.
Near the shoe.
So the shoe.
You may be too young for the shoe. That was like that was a hangout spot for I only went there once, but it's kind of like a legendary spot. What was that? The original shoe was right off of Wellwood.
It's like the pseudo-industrial area on the left-hand side past New Horizons, I think.
Oh,
Right
okay, yeah.
before 109 over there.
where kids would go and drink and
Right.
act stupid.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
So
Nope.
you were you were a William Roller.
I was a roller. Yes.
Very nice, me as well.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
92 Burrs Avenue. So like
Oh,
by
Burrs,
Kellum
okay.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And
Yeah, not too far. Across the
Mhm.
tracks from me, but not too far.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
right. The tracks were by my house too, but you had to walk across straight path to get to them.
Exactly.
And how many siblings growing up?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. So all older. I'm the youngest.
You're the baby.
I'm the baby. Yes. Yep, and we were all born and raised here.
And there's the second cameo of the evening. That's my dog in the background. Cool. So school, like elementary school and whatnot. What are some of your first memories?
Yeah, I mean, meeting friends that I still have some of those friends to this day that come into the brewery. It's funny to see that everybody has like husbands and kids and all
Yeah.
that stuff because, I still remember elementary school pretty vividly. I forget how old I am sometimes. But
Was Mr. Longo your gym teacher, or was he gone by
he
the time you were
was.
there? Okay. And Mitt
Yep,
Rothfeld
he
was the
was.
principal,
Yes.
the tannest man I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah.
Yep, he was very tan.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yep, they were both there.
Any teachers you remember specifically or vividly from elementary school?
Probably Miss Bressy, my
Okay.
second grade teacher.
That's a name that does not ring
I
a bell to me.
Yeah, I believe our class was her first year teaching.
There you go.
Like I remember her like being very young, and it was like weird.
Everyone seemed old when I was there, so it would make sense if in between the time I was there, 94, and whenever you were there, they all retired or left or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was the only teacher I could really remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Catholic schooler, so I don't.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
I went public in high school, so
okay. That's good though. That's, more important.
right.
What'd you do, like OLPH?
All PH for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So extracurriculars. What were you getting into as a kid?
Sports, I did like horseback riding when I was in elementary school, but never did any like linear sports, never had any interest.
Any
That was
dance or
more,
anything like that?
what was that?
Any dance or anything like that? Stuff
No,
that
no
us boys
dance.
might not have gotten into.
Yeah, no dance. I was like a pretty boring kid.
I did take one dance class as a kid.
It shows.
I loved Michael Jackson, so
Yeah. Who didn't?
Yeah. That's why you have such great rhythm.
there you go.
Whatever happened with him?
With Michael Jackson.
You don't hear much about him anymore.
I'll tell you later.
All right.
So was horseback riding a school thing, or was that just on your own?
No, it was like
Okay.
so my best friend growing up was from West Babylon, and she was a only child. So she had a very different growing up experience than I
Yeah.
did because I had four other siblings. So I did her, her spoiled only child activities with her. I was like her stand-in sibling, so to speak. So her mom was like, "Oh, Melissa should do horseback riding. She'll love it." Just because she like wanted her daughter to like have a friend
Right,
there
right.
with her.
Wow, so
So
you got spoiled by proxy, kind of hanging out
exactly.
with
Yeah.
her.
Like I like went on their family vacations. It was like really weird. Because like my family didn't go on vacation ever. We went to like Hershey Park. We went camping, things like
Same.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But her family was always on vacation. So they're like, let's just bring Melissa for a friend for a cat. So it ended up working in my advantage, but it was a pretty interesting upbringing.
Yeah, for sure. So okay, so William Roll School, and then the middle school shortly after. Now you're a bit younger than
Yep.
us. So what years was that?
I have to think about it because I graduated in 2009. So I guess I was in middle school like 2002 to 2004. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was already in college. So what?
Yeah. Me too. But
Yeah, a little different experience, especially like the turn of the century.
post 9/11 being in, you know
Post
what I mean?
9/11.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Right. And so are you getting into the music scene and whatnot at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when probably around seventh grade.
Okay.
Sixth grade, I still felt like a kid. Like I still like played with toys and Barbies and all that stuff. So when seventh grade hit, I started meeting all my friends, and all my friends tended to be older. Like
Okay.
my best friend was a year older than me, and then she introduced me to a bunch of people that were older. And then my sister Janine, she graduated in 2005. So when I started to get a little bit older, like eighth grade, ninth grade, I would end up hanging out with like her groups of friends because
Gotcha.
I just never really identified with my own group, I guess.
Kind of an old
Yeah,
soul.
I always felt old soul for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So like, what were some of the first shows and whatnot that you were going to?
Surprisingly, my first show was, besides like Hanson at Jones Beach and like Spice Girls. My first show as a teenager in that period was Edna's Goldfish
Wow.
at the
Nice.
Crazy Donkey.
Okay, so it was a
Oh,
reunion
the
show.
reunion. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
so I think I was in eighth grade.
There you go.
Yep.
The band who wrote our theme
Yeah,
song.
our namesake.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's why I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
ASOB was on that show too.
Probably,
believe so.
maybe High School Football Heroes.
High School Football
That's it.
Heroes.
High
Yeah.
school,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I saw them a lot.
That was the fateful night that Baldwin injured Brian Diaz on stage,
Brian Diaz got very, very upset about that.
and ended on a sour note.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So speaking of Hanson, I opened for them twice around that same
Wow.
time period
Really?
with my old band Stealing Jane. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Was not prepared for that fandom.
no.
Hanson
it is
fans
intense.
are serious.
They are serious.
And
Yeah.
it's different. Like when you're in a sold out club of 3,000 as opposed to a sold out club of 3,000 girls.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a different
It-
frequency. Huh?
I can understand now why the Beatles stopped playing live, because it is deafening
Yeah.
to hear
It's-
that many
yeah.
girls scream.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure when I went, my ears were bleeding.
Yeah.
Like I had to wear like the special ear muffs
Yeah.
because it was so loud.
It's wild. But yeah, I did open for them a couple times.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, cool. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so getting into shows, getting out there. It's like I said, around the turn of the century, it's a little different because our type of music kind of went a little bit more mainstream.
Hmm.
When we were in high school, it was still the tail end of like it wasn't cool to be a punk. It wasn't cool to be, the kids in bands putting their stickers everywhere.
Right.
It,
Yep.
Ironically, I think today we probably all saw that Tom DeLonge is back in Blink 182.
Oh
So
yeah.
so pre Blink 182, which was when we were in high school, I think they kind of broke open the door for a lot of people and crossed a lot of people into that kind of music after that point, and the Tony Hawk soundtracks and all that sort of stuff. But also at the same
Yep.
time, you have an older sibling who probably was listening to a lot of this stuff, and you were, able to get into a lot of stuff through them, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my sister definitely shaped my entire musical preferences as a kid. Because I would just steal her CDs, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, I like this one, I like that
Hmm.
one, and a lot of AFI,
There you go.
a lot of AFI, Blink 182 for sure. Definitely, that was one of the first albums I bought myself. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. So
did you have to hide that from your parents?
no, my mom brought me to Target. And she bought me all three because I had to have each variant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she had no idea. She was oblivious to the name, to the music that was on the CD. She was just like, whatever makes you happy.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so getting into that, like at the time that you were in high school, like what was the environment like as far as like for kids who were into that type of music and like kids who were in bands were like they considered the cool kids at this point or
No,
no? Still
no,
okay.
quite the opposite. Yeah. A lot
Okay.
of bullying. I had hot pink hair, and it was like always, it was a topic of conversation. I was always made fun of for it. And I was always the weird kid with the band shirts and the studded belts. It was not cool.
Oh, so the freaks were still the freaks.
Yeah, we were definitely still the freaks.
Okay,
Yep.
that's good to know. Because at that point, I'm just
Yeah.
I you're seeing it everywhere, and me just being a pretty much grown adult at that point, I'm thinking, wow,
It's
if,
in the
if I
mainstream.
was in high
Yeah.
school now, I'd be the
King
shit.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think about that all the time too. Like the emo kids are cool, and that's like
Yeah.
they're the cool kids now, and I'm like, that's so weird to me.
What is the vibe like in the high school at that point? Because I know before when we were there was not a giant security booth when you walked in the front by the what do you call it? The
Yeah.
auditorium. So did you ever feel unsafe in the high school or any sort of weirdness like that?
No, and I don't remember there being a security booth when I was there either. So that
Yeah.
must have happened after.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I remember there being like a main office that
Right.
you had to like go into, but yeah, I don't remember security at all. I feel like the deans were just kind of like acting as security.
There were
Oh,
definitely like guards, not like armed guards or anything, but like guys in uniform that were supposed to stop stuff that never stopped stuff when we were there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I went there recently to take pictures of all the murals that are still up, and I can't believe it.
They're still up.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
you can see on my Instagram. I took pictures. Yeah, did you make one as well?
I helped
You did.
my best, Tina, my
Yeah.
best friend Tina. She made one. Like I forget where it was, but I helped her paint it.
What was it?
Oh man, I don't remember. I just remember it being a lot of colors. It was very colorful.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are murals as far back as like the early '80s in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way kids know what the hell Love and Rockets are, like,
Hmm.
you know, or
Yeah.
the Three King Diamond murals.
Or Public Image Limited or whatever,
Yeah, but it's crazy that they're still up.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's good. That's nice to know that they're still up.
Yeah.
It's
Someone
like
has reverence for
history.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it did like there were a few steps to me getting in. Like I had to clear it with one of the vice principals,
Oh,
and
you went during hours?
no, I was.
Oh,
It was actually we were still kind of mid COVID,
gotcha.
so I don't even know if school was like in school
In
at that point.
session.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but yeah, it was like Fort Knox. It was yeah, different story.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to sneak in, I snuck out every day. I knew all the doors to get in and get out of. I was not a big fan of high school, so I was using every excuse to leave.
Did you work around then? Like when did you work in high school at all? Any
I
Lindenhurst
did.
jobs?
Um, so my mom's ex-husband owned a diner when I
Okay.
was about 14. So a waitress at the little diner,
Okay.
like right up the block from where I live now. So it's like it was called the APJ's. Now it's a Ralph's Italian Ice on Montauk Highway.
Okay.
And yeah, so I used to work there on the weekends.
Oh wow. Yeah, I haven't thought of that
Yeah.
place in forever. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that was your first job as a
That was
waitress?
my
Yeah.
first job. Yeah.
So yeah, any extracurriculars besides that, or just trying to get out of
No,
school as quick as you could?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep, just waiting. And at that point, I mean, when I was in high school, a lot of my friends were already graduated.
Right.
And so I was, when I got to be a senior, or even when I was in 11th grade, I was just ready to be out because everybody else was out.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And did you go to college afterwards?
I did. So my cat's just retaliating right now. He's swiping things all over the place. I ended up going to Suffolk for a year and then I dropped out. I took a year off and then I went to FIT.
Okay. Would you study there?
I did fashion business management. Yep. So that was my industry before 27A. I was in the fashion industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any work or like interning experience there, or just the schoolwork?
I interned pretty much the entire time.
Okay.
That they were very big on internships. It was actually a requirement in my senior year when I was getting my bachelor's. Like you had to put in a certain amount of hours interning.
Right.
So I was working full time and going to school full time and interning part time.
Okay.
So it was a little crazy, but it definitely was good because I learned a lot of things that I still use to this day.
There you go.
So who were you working for?
At the time I started working for like a bridal company called Sala. She designed wedding dresses, bridesmaids dresses. So I would work in like the sales aspect of that. And then I ended up working in PR for a little bit with the PR firm that represented a bunch of different fashion brands, and they would put on their fashion shows. So I would work Fashion Week and work, 13-hour days of just setting up and breaking down fashion shows.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working ultimately at a company that was a licensee for a bunch of different brands. So they would basically buy the license of fashion brands and then produce like their children's clothes or their coats, just like sub brands of the brands, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for a company for a couple of years doing that.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you get to do any traveling or kind of
No,
meet anybody prominent in the industry?
I met a couple of people, like some fashion people, a couple of celebrities. I met Paris Hilton, which was kind of nice. She was like the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life, interestingly enough. One of the brands I worked for they represented Jessica Simpson. So I would interact with her a lot, like her whole team. So Marc Jacobs, a designer called Zach Posen, worked for them for a little while. So yeah, I bounced around a bit.
Okay. And so around this time, I'm not sure of the time frame of when you meet your husband, but is it around that time?
Oh, I
So,
met Ryan in high school. Yeah,
okay.
so we went. So he graduated a year before me. So he graduated 2008.
No, another
So
Lindenhurst graduate.
he's another Lindenhurst graduate. Yep,
Alrighty.
another lifer. So we met. I actually met him in 7th grade initially because he was in my best friend's science class, and they both had to stay after because they were failing. So like they had to stay after for like extra help. And I remember meeting up with her because her mom was driving me home, and she had introduced me to Ryan. And then I always like knew who he was because he was like a skateboarder and into music, and then we ended up becoming really good friends when I was in 9th grade, and we stayed friends.
He played in bands too?
Yeah, he's played in a couple of different bands. Nothing like major in high school, but just kind of messing around, doing, guitar, bass, more of jamming than anything.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when did you guys start dating?
We started dating my senior year. So 2008, it was September of 2008. So I graduated in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, right after he graduated and he was in college and he asked me out on the date. It was pretty cute. Yeah, so we've been dating for 13 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. Some time in between, we broke up for a little while to sow our oats and
As it
do
goes.
that whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. The early 20s was rough because I was like, am I really going to end up marrying my high school sweetheart? And
Yeah.
he was thinking the same thing. He was like, we didn't expect it to happen. And then, so we broke up for a couple of years. We were broken up for a solid 2 years. And I just remember just crying every day because I missed him so much. Like trying to date other people. And it was just like, it was torture.
Just not happening.
It was not happening. Yeah.
What was he doing before you guys started the business for work?
So he started in marketing. So he would do like graphic design, marketing, for actually an apparel company, ironically enough. And then he also did that for it's like a car company. So they would make parts for cars. So he would do like their graphic design. So he did that. And then he got into brewing. What he started home brewing like 12 years ago, right when he turned 21. Like that was like his best friend's 21st birthday gift was a home brew kit. So they started home brewing, and then he really got into beer, and then eventually he ended up working for a couple different breweries and for a company that goes around and cans beer. That's kind of how he was like introduced to the industry.
Okay.
So it was like a mobile canning line. So he would just like get in the box truck, they would load up the canning line and then drive around to all the breweries in the tri-state area and can like thousands of gallons of beer in one day and just pack the thing up and go on.
So that's what
Yeah.
kind of like planted the seed for the idea of eventually opening a brewery of his own.
Yeah. So we kind of always knew that we wanted to open something. We thought initially it would be a bar or a restaurant, something like, an Irish pub. And then when he started brewing his own beer and he realized how passionate he was for it and that he was good at it,
Yeah.
we were like, okay, this probably is doable.
And so, did you always have your sight set on something in Lindenhurst?
We actually didn't. That wasn't our initial thought. I always kind of wanted to because I wanted to stay home. But at the time, Lindenhurst was, as you guys I'm sure know, there was nothing going on here.
It's ghost town.
There was no, it was a ghost town. So we were like, do we really want to open here if there's nothing going on? But then we saw the potential of it happening. We knew that Restoration was opening. Restoration is the restaurant on Hoffman Avenue. They were getting ready to open, and then we were hearing of other people like getting interested in the town and talking about Lindenhurst, and it was something that we never thought was possible.
Yeah.
So we started looking around. There was a lot of empty storefronts, and we started looking around there in about 2018. It was actually 2017, I believe, when we started looking. And then we found our location in 2018.
And yeah, it's funny because like people talk a lot about gentrification in the city, but never really in the suburbs. But it absolutely happens here. Like if you think
Definitely.
about like Bayshore, Patchogue, those towns
Farmingdale, even to some
15,
extent.
yeah,
Farmingdale,
15, 20
yeah.
years ago, very, very different.
Mhm.
And those are like really walkable towns now, outdoor dining.
Yep. Yeah, they're like destinations.
Yeah. So, but the building you got now, it's a very old building.
Prime real estate
Yeah.
for sure on Wellwood Avenue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like our main street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our building is 130 years old.
Wow.
It's really old. It's a little spooky.
And was a butcher shop?
It was a
previously?
butcher shop. Yeah, so in the 20s. So originally it was a tin shop. So the man lived there and also owned a business there.
Tin
And he would
Man.
make, he was a tin man, essentially. Yes. He put the ceilings up. We have tin ceilings. He put those
Yeah.
up. So those are original from like 1890.
Damn.
That's
And
cool.
he was there for a good 30 years. And then a butcher from Germany got his, I guess, his butcher license, because you have to have a license for it back then. And he moved to Lindenhurst with his family, and he opened up Bankert's Meat Market in 1920. And he was there until about 95, I believe.
And I think it was a bike
95 or
shop
96.
after that.
It was a bike shop.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then it was like an antique shop for a bit. And then it was also like a religious goods and coin shop.
Yes.
And then it was vacant for 11 years before we signed a lease.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but like there would be a lot of, especially in the 90s, like a lot of junker shops that would just pop up and go.
Yep.
Like where people were selling just random things. You know, there was one, was it Cheap Charlie's? Do you remember, John?
I feel like you've told me about this before, like
Yeah.
on Wellwood and Hoffman. Is that where it was?
It was
And you
right
got
by
tape-
where your
you got
brewery is
tapes
now.
there or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I got tapes. They had old T-shirts, which now would like sell for a fortune. You know, old records and whatnot. It was just like this dusty middle-aged dude, just you know. But those type of places would pop up all over town, and they would just come and go, just like
Yeah.
people selling random junk, or like bins of like 10-cent candy,
Mm.
Yep.
like stationery, like those type of shops.
Yeah.
You don't see it as much anymore, but
Stationery stores were a thing of the past. Those don't really exist anymore. Where you would go
Yeah.
and get cards and cliff notes and whatever, you know, like an atlas map, or you know what I mean, those big plastic road maps, so you knew where you were going and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
that's still something I consider though. Like, oh, I should go to a stationery shop for that thing. Like,
Mm.
it's just like Radio Shack. Like, I'll just stop at Radio Shack. Oh wait,
Yeah.
never
These
mind.
things that aren't, like, we'll go to
Nope.
Caldors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, you nailed. And I know, like, I've had friends who've opened breweries in the past, and I know, like, there's a lot of red tape you have to sift through. And
Oh, yeah.
you were on the cusp of a pandemic as you were doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we did not know that.
that must have been insane. What was that experience like?
So the pandemic hit. We opened in August 2019. So we were exactly 6 months old when we got shut down. There was a lot of fear at first because initially they told us we had to shut down completely. We were not allowed to brew. We weren't allowed to sell anything. And we were like, all right, this is it. Like, we're just going to have to lock up the doors for a couple of months. And then they retracted it and said we could sell beer to go out the front door. So I was like, all right, that changes things. So we ended up buying as many cans as we possibly could. And we hand canned every one of our beers that we sold during the shutdown. So we had like we still have it. We have a can seamer that we literally fill the beer and seal it by hand, each beer.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How long does that take?
Each can probably takes about 30 seconds, which isn't too bad. So we would just get into a flow of
Right.
just filling beers, sealing them, putting them in the fridge, and then we would have people pre-order them online. So we kind of had an idea of how many we would need each day. And then we would fill a little bit extra for people who would just drop by and want a beer. So we pivoted really quickly
Yeah.
because we didn't have any other choice.
And
Yeah.
is it just the two of you in that process?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So we had bartenders initially when we first opened, that are beer tenders. They would, work, as normal bartenders do. And unfortunately, we had to let them go when we found out that we wouldn't be able to be an open tasting room. So yeah, it was just me and Ryan the entire time, just canning beers, working on the website, working on social media, trying to get people excited,
Yeah.
trying to get people to continue to come to the brewery and get a new beer each week. And it ended up becoming a ritual for some people. They would get excited about the beers we were posting about, and that was like their highlight of their week, was to be able to walk down to the brewery and pick up a can.
Yeah.
So
Putting your PR chops to the test.
exactly, yeah, seriously, yeah. I was just like, we went automatically into survival mode. I was
Yeah.
like, what can we do? What's the craziest shit we can do? What could we put in a beer that people are gonna be like, oh my God, I have to go to 27A right now and get that can of beer. Like green glitter beer, pink glitter beer, uh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, a rocket fuel tasting beer, stuff that people are like, I need that.
Was there one with gummy bears?
Gummy bears,
Yeah.
yep,
Rainbow cookies, right?
yeah. Rainbow
Ooh,
cookie, yep. That's definitely one of our most popular, if not our most popular.
that's very on brand for Lindenhurst.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, and we actually would put the cookies from Patsy's on top of the beer.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so you made it through the pandemic, which is
We made it through.
no small feat.
Yeah.
So things start to open again. It's like, it's so unfortunate because like the revitalization of town was just happening. It was just the ball was just rolling as COVID came
Exactly.
in, and like that just
Yeah.
put a real damper on everything. But it survived, and like it's starting to flourish now.
I think it almost came
Definitely.
out stronger because people
Yeah.
felt compelled to go to those places and, you know what I mean, support those businesses in the time of the pandemic, where
Absolutely. Yeah.
people were getting to go drinks from your place or, Belfast or Restorations or Bakudo or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, people made it a point to do it. They're like, all right, like we need to get food to go from this place today. We got to go
Mhm.
get food to go from this place this day, just to keep
Yeah,
everybody. And that's like the spirit of the community. And I have to say, like, our customers are probably like the best customers in the world because they were devoted to all of us staying open
yeah,
and doing whatever they could to support us in that time, buying gift cards, buying merch. Like even people that don't drink, they would just come to 27A and be like, all right, give me a glass, give me a shirt, give me a gift card, give me this, give me that.
yeah.
Because they just wanted to make sure we could pay our bills.
Hell yeah.
So definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, there's three breweries in town now, which is wild.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but they all seem to have kind of like their own crowd. I feel like,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We all have our like own vibe. And that's really what we wanted. We have our own culture and we wanted to keep it that way. We obviously welcome everybody, but not everybody is going to like the music that we play.
right.
They're not going to like that we're small and cozy, or they're not going to like, that we don't have a lot of parking, that you kind of have to walk through town to get to our place. So, it's not for everybody, but then it's some people's favorite place.
Yeah.
So definitely a little culture inside of there.
And is there like a lot of communication and camaraderie between the breweries?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like we're such good friends with the people from Sand City, like the owners, like they've helped us a bunch. We help them all the time. And the employees over there are amazing. They come and hang out at 27A after their shifts.
That's cool.
So we're all friends. So people don't expect that. They think like, oh, competition, and we're like, no, like we're friends.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, we're in the town that was once in the Guinness Book of Records for most bars. So
yeah. I
there's
think
no
we'll be
shortage of
okay.
drinkers, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Breslau, the new brewery, opened up the block, and they're also Lindenhurst lifers,
Yeah.
and they're amazing people, and they help us. And Ryan goes over and helps them sometimes. It's really nice.
So yeah, that brings us a little bit more into the present day. So business is ramping up. So you're starting to do like more events and more things with the town. I know there's a lot more. I was saying to somebody recently that like all we had back in the day was Oktoberfest and
Yeah.
the Ola PH feast, and that was the only two things that would happen,
Yep.
throughout the year. But now it seems like every night there's something going on,
There's
especially
a
like in the
street fair
summer.
every
Yeah,
other week or something. Yeah.
There really is. Yeah, especially in the summer, they do the Wednesdays on Wildwood, which is
yeah,
it's amazing. It's just vendors, music, food. They close down the street. You can walk around with your beers. It's a really good time, and it's like definitely a huge booster for us
yeah,
on a Wednesday. Wednesdays are typically quiet in the industry, so to be able to like have a random Wednesday where we're making the amount of money that we would make in a weekend in one day,
yeah,
it's definitely it's really helpful after everything that we went through the past 3 years.
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So now, as far as like just doing different things in the future, just to keep the business fresh and interesting.
Yeah.
Any ideas or anything
Well,
you'd like to accomplish?
yeah, well, we just like integrated. We got a different license. So previously we were only allowed to make beer and sell the beer that we make. Now we have a different license where we can, do the same thing, make the beer, sell the beer, but we can also sell New York State spirits and wine. So now we're like working on a whole cocktail menu just to like have a couple different options for people that don't necessarily drink beer.
Yeah.
So, but still like keeping it local, and we get our spirits from Betterman Distilling in Patchogue.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that. And then yeah, more events now that, COVID, knock on wood, is seemingly kind of regulating itself. We're getting more comfortable with having events at the brewery. We had our first show a couple weeks ago, our first acoustic show where
Yeah.
Somerset Thrower came, did an acoustic set, which was really cool. We had Vinny Caruana. Oh, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, Somerset Thrower did like a live stream
Yes,
from
yeah.
there.
So
Yeah.
during the pandemic, they shot their music video there, and they did a live stream of it. So that was really cool.
Yeah. What was that? What was that like logistically and technically, like getting it to sound good in that space?
It actually sounded great,
Yeah.
I think it was the acoustics of the building just naturally kind of carry sound really well
The
because
tin
it is the
roof.
tin ceilings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ceilings are really high. So it ended up working out really nicely. We were a little nervous about the sound. But then when they started practicing, we were like, wow, this actually sounds amazing. Now, our neighbor who was attached to the building was not happy with us,
I'm
but
sure. Yeah.
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 Well, we played in the paint store many times, right? That's right next door.
Many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
The wood shop.
So you're going to keep it more low key from now on, acoustic stuff.
Yeah, acoustic. Yeah, we worry about our single pane glass. That was my biggest concern when
That's
Somerset was doing their full set.
very
It
rational
was just like
concern.
rattling. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a cool visual for sure.
Yeah, right. Just like the glass shattering.
Yeah, straight out of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely acoustic. We had Vinny Caruana play. He actually was hired by somebody, and they asked us if he could do it at 27A because they wanted to have more space. And we were like, yes, absolutely, because he's one of our favorite artists.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking to him, and we're gonna end up doing a couple things with him at the brewery in the future.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
What was the
stuff like
turnout
that.
like for that?
It was kind of weird because the people hired him themselves, so they only invited like the people that they almost like rented 27A as a
Private event kind of
space.
deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they just invited their people for it, and they said they were like, "Oh, if you guys like want to invite a couple of your own friends to come," so we did that. They were a little like cautious because this was right when things started reopening, so they didn't want to like pack it out, which I totally understood.
Gotcha.
So, but it kind of lit a fire in us where we were like, we need to have him come back, and we need to sell tickets and do 2 sessions, and
Yeah, definitely.
because just like hearing his voice just bounce off the ceiling and like the acoustics of the whole place was it was a surreal moment
Yeah.
after seeing the movie Life so many times in
Yeah.
my life. And
I'm gonna come and bug him to play something off the first demo. I still listen to that like 25 years later.
Red
Yeah,
demo or the white
it's
demo?
solid.
The red demo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thermals.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with what's the song about the Smithtown Mall? Is
Oh
that
yeah.
song on there?
No, that's on
Yeah.
this time next year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is, yeah. Yeah, me and my sister were singing that today because we drove past the Smith Haven Mall.
Right.
So we were singing
I guess
that.
he should change it to Smithtown Mall because it's too many syllables in Smith Haven.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vito will remember us being at the show where they filmed that video, and
Yes.
the girl pushing her way through the thing pushed past us 10 times, and we're like, "What the fuck is that girl's problem? Why
Yeah,
does
we
she keep
didn't-
hitting us?"
We didn't know they were shooting a video. Yeah. She almost knocked me
Oh,
over a
that's
couple
so
times.
funny.
Uh-huh.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
We're in that video somewhere.
That's amazing. Fun fact.
Yeah.
I
So,
think we would
Yeah.
be remiss if we, going back a little bit, And if you don't want to tell this story, that's fine. But could you please explain your family's relationship to Taylor Swift?
No relation, just
Right.
very big fans.
Just
Yes.
very big fans.
Very big fans. Probably so I started being a fan of hers in, I want to say 2007. And yeah, it's been an ongoing thing ever since. An ongoing relationship. Yeah, I've met her a couple times. She's met my mom. It's a weird thing, but yeah, love her, and I'm very excited about her new album.
Would you care to explain how it came about that you met her? Because I guess that's the
Um,
interesting part of the story there.
Yeah, well, we met her in Nashville. Like this was I kind of accepted that we'll probably never meet her ever again because she's just too much of a global
She's
superstar
right.
at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
She's
but
in
back
outer
in the
space
day,
ruling the world, and we're merely down here on Earth.
exactly. Yeah. So we met
Illuminati.
her back in yeah, like literally. There's many signs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we met her in 2009, or it's 2009, 2010. So she was famous enough, but she wasn't like the caliber that she is at the moment. And then we met her again in 2013. So still pretty famous, but still kind of down accessible.
It's only
That makes
grown exponentially every minute of every day since then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually crazy to me when I see like, TikToks and people posting about her. I'm like, wait, I can't believe this many
Was
people
it a
like
meet and greet scenario, or did you get actual time with her?
We got actual time with her both times.
And did you feel like she was like a real person in those interactions?
100%.
Cool.
100%. Because the first time we met her, that's when my mom met her too, because my mom was with us. And then the second time I met her, she remembered us and she was like, wait, where's your mom?
Oh,
and
shit.
I'm like, how the fuck do you remember that?
Yeah, you
like
see a
I was with
million
my
people a
mom?
day.
Yeah. Like I think she has a photographic memory because I technically met her 3 times. So like I in 2014 ended up going to the VMAs just by chance. Like my friend from college was like, "Oh, I got tickets to the VMAs like through this thing that I signed up for. Would you want to go?" And I was like, yeah, Taylor's just gonna be there, sure." And it was actually a really cool night because they were commemorating Justin Timberlake. So he did like a 10-minute performance, which I didn't really care about him at the time, but like it was pretty cool to like be there for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also the VMAs where like Miley Cyrus like grinded on Robin Thicke.
In the Beetlejuice outfit or whatever.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah. So I saw that in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which was you know, it was a character building. But yeah, so I actually ended up running into Taylor Swift at the VMAs. And she again remembered me. And this was, 2 years after meeting her the most recent time. And she was like mind blown to like almost be seeing me again. And it was like just the conversation we had, it was very strange. But so I can 100% say that she's a real person. And I believe she has some crazy photographic memory.
You heard it here.
Yep.
So I have a picture here for everyone listening. This is from your birthday.
Oh my God, yes. My 21st birthday.
Which I DJ'd.
Yep. You DJ'd my birthday, yes.
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up. Yep.
And back to Taylor Swift. At the time, I had a 120 gig iPod, which I used as like a backup hard drive for all the music I DJ'd with. And after that, people would like flip through my iPod and be like, wow, you're a big Taylor Swift fan. Because I had to like download everything.
Yep.
To play.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that played the entire time. That was a great party.
Got to make the client happy.
Yep. I was definitely happy.
Good to know.
Yeah.
iPods.
iPods, it's another thing of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 10 years ago. So.
Wow. Damn.
Yep. Yep.
So
Crazy.
winding down, we want to play a little game with you.
Okay.
I'll let John take the reins on this one.
All right. So we are going to play best and worst of the Hearst. We're the rapid fire motion. I'm going to name something, and you're going to tell me what the best and worst of each are. The
Okay.
first will be an easy one. Best pizza in Lindenhurst.
Shit. Spazos.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Spazos.
Yeah, post Roma.
In a post
Yeah.
Roma
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. R.I.P. Sad.
So then conversely, we don't really like to throw people under the bus here, but fuck it. What's the worst pizza in Lindenhurst?
Mr. G.
That was also my answer. I agree with that 1,000%.
It's
Always
not
has
even like
been.
that. It's the pizza itself is not terrible. It's just every time I've ever gone there, the price is either different
Mhm.
or like the person bringing me up is deeply confused. I'm like, I just ordered a slice.
Very
Like, I
mixed
don't
vibes
know.
in that place. Like they don't know what's
Yeah,
going on when it seems like pizza should be an easy transaction. An
exactly.
easy, happy transaction, you know?
Yeah. And it's like the one that's closest to me. So I'm like, you think I would go there all the time. But
You
yeah,
would
I always
want it
end
to
up
be
going to
better than it
Spazos.
is.
Exactly.
Right. So then the
Yeah.
next question, best Chinese food in Lindenhurst.
Oh man. Good Fortune? Is that the one we oh no, New Empire. New
That's the
Empire.
one right in
That's
the
on
middle.
Wellwood.
Yeah, Will and Hoffman over there.
Yep. Yeah, I literally just ate it 5 minutes ago before this.
Conversely, worst Chinese food in Lindenhurst.
I hate to say it, but I have not had good experiences at Doc Lao.
Ooh.
I know people love it, but
The only other person we've asked this said the same thing. That Doc Lao is the worst. It's good if you wanted to drink underage maybe 20 years ago. That's the spot to do
definitely.
that in. But
What's your Chinese order usually?
ooh,
Usually the combination platter with General Chow's or sesame chicken. That's usually what I get.
Standard.
Dumplings, always dumplings.
yeah. Steamed or fried?
Steamed.
That's what's up.
Yep.
And then I guess the other question that I asked our last guest was what was the best hangout spot for you when you were younger? What was your favorite place to hang out at? Could be
Favorite place
someone's
to hang
house,
out.
could be a public place, could be Looney Tunes,
Oh,
just looking at shit, even though that's West Babylon, not Lindenhurst.
I frequented Applebee's.
Nice.
That was
Half off
my
apps.
jam. Yeah, half of that. Sorry, my dog's barking now. But yeah, I used to smoke a lot of weed on the train tracks and walk to Applebee's or Taco
Nice.
Bell. That was always the hang.
That's
Taco Bell.
I think a lot of people in Lindenhurst had that exact same upbringing.
Two first half price apps, can't go wrong.
Yep.
Smoking weed and walking to Taco Bell.
Exactly. Yeah. I still do that sometimes.
Okay, and we probably already know the answer to this question, but the best band out of Lindenhurst.
Best band out of Lindenhurst. Oh man, you're making me think now. I mean, of course, Dennis Goldfish, special place in my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, does Backtrack count? Chris?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, very into Backtrack. Yeah. I mean, there's so many good ones.
A lot to choose from. In all different eras. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we obviously know. I'm sorry. The last question I would ask is, where can you find the best beer in Lindenhurst? But I think we know the answer to that.
I think you guys know what I'm going to say. It's Sin City.
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, yeah. Or Village Lantern, honestly. Very good beer. I mean, they don't make the beer, but they have a very nice beer selection.
As a German restaurant should. Yeah.
Yep. But I have to say, I'm very excited about Ruby Soho is opening. Chris Smith's opening that spot.
Yeah.
That's going to be like our hangout. That's where we're going to go after work.
Shout out Chris. Shout out all the Smiths. Shout out Joe. Everyone there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Such cool guys. Everybody. It's crazy to me that like Chris is opening a business down the block from my business because we sat together at lunch like 2006. So it's like weird to think that we've known each other for that long and now we're like buddies.
Grown ass adults owning businesses in town.
Everyone's grown up, but they're not grown up, but they're grown up.
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird because like when we hang out, I'm like, I feel like a teenager. Like I feel like I never, it's weird. Like I'm 31, I'm going to be 32. Like, no, that's not right.
I turned 39 this weekend and it still feels like I'm 15. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And John and I talk about all the same things still 5 years later.
Like no time has passed.
Right? It's weird.
Okay, so that brings us to our last question. If you were to describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that it is um very tight knit. It's almost spooky how tight knit it is, which it's a good thing because the community is very supportive, but people don't they either don't leave Lindenhurst or they leave and come back. Like people are very passionate about Lindenhurst and being from Lindenhurst.
Yep.
That's what I tell people when they're like moving to town because they come into the brewery. Oh, we're thinking about buying a house here. I'm like, yeah, this is like a really tight knit community, and you'll see it's almost like the community is obsessed with each other and interchangeably.
Yeah. I mean, just announcing this podcast, people were very excited.
Right.
Yeah,
And we use the phrase, you can take the person out of Lindenhurst, but you cannot take the Lindenhurst out of the person.
that is 100% the truth.
Right.
I have to agree with that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep. I never left. Just bought a house. I mean, technically we're in Copac, but it's still Lindenhurst address.
Linden Peg.
Can't
The
as
old
they
leave.
say.
Linden peg. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. The Linden Peg. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much for
Yeah.
talking to us, Melissa.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Continued success with the brewery.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep an eye on everything. We're always changing stuff around.
Where can people find you on the web?
27A Brewing on Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. You can call me on the phone, talk. They come see us at the brewery because me and Ryan are always there, for better or for worse.
Everyone I know, everything I see, everywhere I've been, it means so much to me.
All right, you can edit out the large snorts if you want.
Oh no, all the snorts are staying in.
Okay, fair.
How many wax slips does a $1.30 get you?
30.
That's it. Jesus Christ.
They're $4 a piece.
Inflation fucking hit everything.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Shit.
The novelty
That's not
candy
e-
market is crazy.
You could buy several actual nutritious meals for that much money.
That's wild. 30.
I was expecting a much higher number.
I thought I was gonna say 100.
Yeah, at least 130.
Yes.
It's a whole ball of wax, guys.
Ah.
So on that note, let's talk about the Danielses. How did they end up in Lindenhurst? What are the family roots like?
That's a good question. So my parents grew up in Brooklyn, kind of over by Coney Island. My mom was over by the water, Garrettson Beach. My dad was closer to Coney Island, but not quite over there. And when they got together, my dad wound up going out to Vietnam. Came back. They got married. My mom was 19. And dad was working for Department of Sanitation, I believe, at the time, and they just couldn't afford Brooklyn. So like we need to move out somewhere a little further east. So back in the early 70s, I want to say, they wound up coming out to Lindenhurst and buying a house that had black walls inside and like a whole lot of craziness going on inside, and that was what they could afford. So they came out and settled their roots down there.
That's the same house you grew up in?
Yeah, same house I
Okay.
grew up in. They're still there. My sister just moved out, so this is the first time in oh God, a very long time that they've ever had the house to themselves.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Empty nesters.
Yes, for the first time. Yeah, it's wild because I'm the last of 5, so it's been
The
a long
baby.
run. Yes, a 36-year-old baby.
Wow. So what's the age spread between all your siblings?
My oldest brother is 15 years older than I am, so he just turned 51 this year. So it's 15 years, about 13 years with my second oldest brother, and then there's 10 years, 5 years in myself, and those are my two older sisters.
And your sister Liz graduated with me in '99.
Yes.
And in a very Lindenhurst fashion, I spent much more time with you than her.
Yes, in a very Lindenhurst way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Like, all the siblings just kind of like hang out in different combos, really depending on like what they're into.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's weird because even like, I think Liz kept in contact with a couple people like um Missy and Barbara Simmons, and then Teresa Torchiano, and now I talk to Teresa more and keep in touch with her more. So it's just wild how that transition happens.
Yeah. And obviously you and my younger brother graduated together.
Oh yeah, him.
Him.
Yes. That's all. Yeah. We graduated 2004. Yeah.
But elementary school, what part of town did you grow up in?
Albany Avenue. So
Okay.
yeah, myself and actually a bunch of friends I'm insanely close with to this day. We all went to Albany Avenue in the same. It's about three of us now. We're still like really, really tight, but went to Albany Avenue.
What are some of your first memories of school and just Lindenhurst in general, being out and about?
Oh, I could tell you embarrassing school memory if you it's like the one memorable one.
That would be
Um,
great.
So I was like, just as I am today, very awkward, and I was more shy then, a lot less shy now. But when I was a kid, I think the first memory I have in elementary school is having to pee really, really bad in the gym circle at Albany Avenue and refusing to ask because I was so scared when we were in that gym circle. And I definitely just peed my pants, and I was wearing those like whitewashed jeans at the time. And I remember we all had to stand up from the gym circle, and someone looked at me and was like, what's going on? And I said, these are lightning style. It's the new style of jeans. Didn't you know? And then I don't remember what happened after that. I'm assuming they saw the pee underneath me. But that's
lightning
probably
style did not catch the world's eye and become the newest trend.
No, I don't think so.
What grade was this?
That was probably like kindergarten. It's
Okay.
probably kindergarten because I remember that Liz was still in school and we were still in the same school at the same point. So she had to have been in 5th grade and I would have been in kindergarten.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we didn't overlap after that.
And so
Yeah.
I guess you
Sorry to
don't
come
remember
back
what
in.
happened after that, but you probably just walked around with wet pants for the rest of the day.
I'm assuming that I think I like blocked it out in my memory somewhere really far
Gotcha.
back, but I don't know what happened. I'm assuming they
I'm
sent
not
me
trying
home.
to pry to, get you to
Oh,
a bad
I wish
spot
I
or
knew.
anything.
I wish I
Right.
knew, and you can bring it out this way I could actually remember.
One day we'll get there.
One day.
So what kind of extracurriculars were you getting into? What were your hobbies?
When I was a kid, I loved reading and all of that. Really super into all that stuff. I played soccer, but I hated it. So I was a big soccer family. My parents, Marianne and Steve, they were soccer coaches. So they started coaching as soon as they came out. They kept popping out kids and just coaching them. And then they were, I by extension of that, wound up joining, the Long Island Junior Squire Soccer League. So I was doing that. But I found volleyball, and volleyball was my big one that I really, really loved. So I wound up playing in elementary school as much as you could, but then I played in middle school and high school as well. That was the big one.
And were you always super tall?
I was the tallest girl in 4th and 5th grade, and then I shot up in middle school as well. So I'm 5'8", so I was taller for all the girls, and then not as tall once I got to high school.
Gotcha. Just slightly above average.
Exactly.
Cool. So yeah, junior high, are you always like a good student?
A huge nerd, like
Oh,
writing
yeah.
all the
Okay.
notes down. Like I asked permission even in high school to like cut class once, like that point of or that level of
Did they let you?
student. Mr. Keelitz, who's the teacher, and he said, "What's wrong with you? Get out of my class."
Okay.
and made me go. And I also had called and asked my mom permission to cut class the same day. So
Is it really cutting at that point then?
No. Everybody was disappointed in me, I think.
Oh.
But that's the kind of student I was. Super like into all my classes and everything. And yeah.
And were like science and math kind of what you excelled in the most?
Science and math is what I really, really loved. I was really into art also. Like really loved all the art classes, and I took media with boy,
Dorch?
no,
DeLuca.
DeLuca, Dr. DeLuca.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome. Loved that class, loved any type of art class I could take. I also really loved English. I think that just tied in with my love for reading, and social studies was just never for me.
You're right.
Yeah.
Any teachers in particular you remember that you feel like did a great job, or maybe we don't have to throw anyone under the bus, but
Mr. Calabrese for English was one of my absolute favorite teachers.
he was also a film study teacher, I believe, if you took that.
Oh, I didn't take that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I would have taken that had I known he taught it.
Mhm.
He was just a kind, good man that always
Was
encouraged
he
the
also the
best.
Key Club guy?
No, I was
No?
in Key Club, and I don't even remember who it was, because I was only in
Gotcha.
Key Club because my friend Christina Gallo, Tom Matthias, some of my closest friends were in Key Club, so I was like, all right, I'm doing this.
Can you explain what Key Club is?
It's an extension of the Kiwanis Club, so it's essentially like
Okay.
junior Kiwanis. I just went because it was supposed to be like, supporting the community and raising funds for the community and doing all that. I wound up being the Kiwanis liaison, which meant I got to go to dinner for free once a month with the
Sign
Kiwanis
me
Club.
up.
Yeah, so like I was
Oh.
definitely into food and into old people, so it was like, yes,
Dream
this
come
is
true.
for me. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, Mr. Calabrese that was phenomenal. But then also, Mr. Polachek I had for bio in 9th grade, and I absolutely loved him. He was a really, really good teacher, like down to earth and really good. And chemistry, I had some good teachers and bad. I will not name names. But across the board, a lot of my most of my science teachers are absolutely phenomenal.
And did you know, like, from that age that you were going to pursue that as a living?
No, I actually
Oh.
thought I wanted to be a librarian. Like I went into my first semester of college. I went to post first, thinking I wanted to go for library science and do all of that. I hated it.
Ah,
Did not work out for me.
gotcha. So what was the turning point that got you? Well, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk
Yeah.
about some first jobs around town. What were you doing for work?
I had a paper route from when I was probably about 8 or 9 until I was probably around 12 or so. So I remember I did it on Sundays. So Saturday we'd get the delivery of all the papers, and you'd have to like assemble everything to get the comics and the ads and all of that stuff in.
Mm.
So this is the thing you did with your family, like in tandem?
Kind of like I remember doing all the assembling, and on Sundays I would actually do the deliveries. I think if you asked other people in my family, they'd probably say they did more of the work.
Gotcha. I can recall a few friends of mine growing up that had like multiple siblings where that was like a thing their family did, I guess
Yeah,
an easy way to get extra income into the house.
yeah, and it gets passed on too. So I think
Yeah.
like the paper route goes from one to the next to the next. So since I had so many
Mhm.
siblings, it just worked out. I think I delivered for 41st or 42nd Street. So it was
Okay.
so close. We had a station wagon, so we would just have the back open, and I just go and run out and deliver all the papers and have to collect on Fridays.
There you go.
I was going to say our block had a station wagon as well. It would creep down the block, and like the
Yes.
window would just open, and a paper would spit out onto our lawn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was like a drive-by.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would
Just
be
like the
sitting
video
in the
game.
back. Yes. Yeah, I'd be sitting in the back and just like feet hanging. And my dad, my mom were probably going like maybe 5 miles an hour at best
Yeah.
as I was just throwing them out. Yeah. So that was my first one. I think I've only ever had one other job in Lindenhurst. I did work at the Better Bagel in Copeg. So that Liz got me the job because she had worked there. Excuse me.
Is that Montauk Highway?
Frog in
Better
my
Bagel?
throat. Yeah.
And
So
like Strong, Montauk and Strong.
right over
Ish.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that area. So sorry. I worked there for about a summer or two when I was like 14 or 15. And Liz had worked there at the same time. And I think the only other job I had in Lindenhurst was right when I was in my senior year. I worked there maybe with Edna as well, though we didn't overlap. It was a collections agency, and I didn't realize it was a collections agency. So I worked there for like a month or two, like realized what I was doing, and I was so miserable, and I just called to quit.
Horrible, horrible
Yeah.
work.
Yes, I was just scanning papers. So I didn't have to deal with all
Oh,
the
okay.
craziness, but I was like, this is just sad, and I don't like this, so I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting into college age now. As you said, you were planning on library science, didn't like it. So, what made the transition to science or STEM, as we say?
So I realized because I was paying my own way through college that I didn't want to just take out loans and get whatever degree. So I wound up working for a microelectronics company called Aeroflex in Plainview. For a couple of years, I was a buyer there. I did some like random work for them. And then I went and I got my associates, just liberal arts. I figured no matter what, I'm going to need those classes. And then I started working at Healthy Alternatives in Babylon as a receptionist. They did a lot of massage therapy there and like holistic type stuff. And as I was there, I tried like taking classes here and there to remind myself of what I like to do. And I took an anatomy and physiology class after shadowing at a pathologist assistant's office or lab. And I thought that was really cool, like seeing all the tissues and everything like that from surgeries and autopsies coming through. So I went and I took anatomy and physiology, and then I remembered how much I just loved science in general. So then I decided just to go back for a degree in biology, which is what I wound up doing, and I just dove headfirst into it and was like geeking out over everything.
And what school was that?
Farmingdale.
Farmingdale. Okay.
Yeah. I I bounced around a little bit. Like at some point I thought I wanted to do environmental sciences earlier on, and I took a class at Stony Brook and didn't like it. So I wound up, finalizing on bio after the anatomy and physiology class.
And did that lead to any like internships or?
Internships at SUNY Farmingdale. I wound up doing like a research internship there in the microbiology department, but that was kind of self-led. The professor wasn't supposed to, but he just gave me the keys to the lab and just said, do whatever you want. So I essentially was like 21 or 22 and had the lab to myself that I could just go in and do stuff. So that was a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. So what exactly do you do in a biology lab? What if you were to walk into one and have it to yourself? Like what's the first thing you would go for?
Oh, that's like if I'm going to steal stuff or I'm going
Or if you,
like what'll
gonna
give me
make
the
a
most
potion.
money?
Yeah.
A potion. Well, I guess I'm in such a niche
Is that the
field now.
technical term, a potion?
A potion, a solution, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
if you were going to reanimate a corpse,
Yeah.
what?
Oh,
Serums and such.
then it's actually funny. One of my prior job to this one, I worked at the Whitehead Institute. I had a lab there, and it's I work in like what's called the shared resource lab or a core facility. So like we help people and provide services for one specific technology, which is flow cytometry. But the institute I worked at, the PI or principal investigator, he does all of his work on regenerative medicine.
Oh.
So yeah, he works with worms essentially to do all of that work. So I would go to his lab if I wanted to reanimate someone and try and learn a bit more from them.
Cool.
Yeah, they
She
do
had a
fun
real
stuff.
answer.
They work with helminths.
So do they actually bring worms back to life, or parts of worms?
No, they just they just do studies to see how they regenerate, because you could like chop parts off and they regenerate everything,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So
Wow.
it's like a simple organism that they can really glean a lot of information from in the lab very easily. So they've been doing a lot of work on it for years, but not bring it back to life. Though I did work at a lab in Pittsburgh. Um, this is one of my first jobs right out of college, and they were doing what's called autologous cell treatment. So they would take a tissue sample from patients, bring it back to the lab, and grow it up, and it was muscle cells. So it's then the patient's own muscle cells that's grown up to like millions and billions of cells, and it's given back to the patient for
Mm.
regenerative medicine.
Gotcha.
But someone in that lab actually did get like, it's crazy, you can see this now if you Google it, but she was just doing it on her own there. You could get like heart muscle to start beating in a petri dish,
Wild.
which is pretty cool. Yeah. People are doing some crazy things out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And has that been implemented in medicine yet?
Not yet. There's a lot of hurdles to be able to get there, but a lot of labs are working on it to be able to kind of grow up cells, give them back to you, or find ways to replace and repair cells in the body.
Gotcha.
This might be weird and off topic, but is that essentially like what the blood doping is when they talk about like cyclists doing that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think that might be done for oxygen supply.
Gotcha.
I
That sounds
I'm
right.
not super familiar with it, but if I were to venture a guess, that would be why.
That sounds right.
Yeah, yeah, because then that's giving you a lot more energy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're graduating college around, I'm guessing this is 08, 09?
No,
little
because I
later.
took the break, I graduated 20 2011, I think. I graduated college.
And one of your first real jobs was in Pittsburgh.
That was my second one. My first job straight out of college, I was just trying to find anything where I would be able to live and support myself. So I wound up not being able to stay in New York. And I went and I worked in a microbiology lab out in Swiftwater, Pennsylvania, so out in the Poconos. And I worked in a QC microbiology lab there for a vaccine manufacturer. Yeah,
Okay.
that was fun.
And did you get a little like precursor glimpse into like what they're using now for COVID vaccines or
No, they
no?
didn't do any mRNA vaccines or anything like that back then. That's a pretty new technology. What they pretty much use is like attenuated virus. So they take a virus, then they grow it up, and then they like partially heat kill it or do some chemical treatments. That all of the pieces of the virus are there so that your immune system can recognize it and
Okay.
be able to know, like, all right, this is what's going on, and attack it. But there's no harm to you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you're in the Poconos and then you head a little bit farther out west to Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's my job out in the Poconos was a temporary job, so it was a contract position, and they were on a hiring freeze, so I needed like health benefits and all that fun stuff. So
Sure.
I went out to Pittsburgh and I worked at that company where they were doing the testing to see if they could implement this in patients for the autologous cell treatment, and I was there for about a year.
Okay.
In 2012. Yeah. Wild 10 years
And
ago.
yeah,
So
time
feels like
flies.
30 years ago, honestly.
I'm sorry, where were you doing that? Were you doing that at a lab there or
Yeah, it was a company called Cook Myocyte. So there's this larger company, Cook Medical,
okay.
and they employed some researchers from, I believe it was University of Pittsburgh, who are doing that research, and then they started their own little small biomedical company within Cook Medical, who supplies a lot of medical devices. And I was like their 30th employer ever, and I think they're like over 100 now because they've grown. Yeah,
So you were in on the ground floor kind of.
yeah, for a little bit before realizing Pittsburgh wasn't for me and heading back home to New
Okay.
York.
That was my next question. Pros and
Yeah.
cons of Pittsburgh. I'm obviously more cons if you left at some point, but
Pros, my rent was like insanely affordable, and I think it's still insanely affordable. And I had this like beautiful old apartment like wood paneled walls, like fireplace, even though it wasn't functional. Just like awesome. Um, Definitely more affordable. It's scenic out there. It's pretty. People are really, really nice. Like I remember the first time I went to go make a right at a stop sign and there was all this traffic. The first person let me go. And I was like, what? Like, it was like a whole different like
Culture shock. Yeah.
yeah. And then it
Whoa.
happened the next day and I was like, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
But they're all really
Yeah.
nice. I think cons would be I remember trying to find pizza and like every Friday I would go and like buy a pie to like last me the weekend from like a new place. And I eventually gave up. And they had said to me, no, you have to try this place. This is just like New York. It's amazing. And I went, I was like, this is going to be the best weekend ever. I think I threw it out. It was so bad. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest cons.
What do they call sandwiches there? Grinders.
I call them grinders. I remember going to the grocery store for the first time and it was Pop and Jimmy's.
Mm.
Oh no.
I was like, oh, I'm out here. But now
Uh.
I've started to use Jimmy's ironically, and it's caught on that I started to use it. So joke's on me.
I've been told there's a racial connotation to the term Jimmy, so don't throw it around
No.
too much.
No. Okay.
I
Okay.
feel like that's an old Brooklyn thing too. Jimmy's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother's Jimmy, so I don't know. Like for me, I just think of like a bunch of mini my brothers, and it's even weirder. Now I have that image in my head. Yeah.
It's a good image.
I don't know.
So you're back in New York.
Yeah.
So does the job you have in Pittsburgh, does that parlay into employment here, or are you kind of like on your own when you get back and you have to kind of interview and kind of start all over again?
Yeah, so I had to start all over again. I had a decision of whether or not I wanted to renew my lease. There was some stuff going on with my family, and I knew that, had some stuff not been going on, I might have stayed out there and given it a bigger or a longer shot to try and see if I liked it. But I just had to come home. So I came home and I was just trying to find a job. And I found one for short term, and it was probably the worst job I've ever had. I won't say the company or anything like that, but it wasn't for me. And one of the things that I had done out in Pittsburgh that I really liked was that thing I mentioned before called flow cytometry. It was really a really cool technique, something I really liked. And when I came home, I was
For
like,
those who don't know what that is, like us,
yeah.
could you
For
explain
those
what that
with an
means?
IQ under 200, could you?
Yeah.
Oh, I have like probably like a negative IQ. I don't know, but flow cytometry is essentially the coolest thing ever. I might be biased, but it's essentially, if you think about it, flow is like in a fluid suspension, and then cyto is a cell, and metry is a measurement, right? So it's this way where we can have cells or particles, anything like that, in a fluid suspension, or like so like in a tube of fluid and stuff like that. And then you put it into this instrument, and it gets pressurized and goes up, and there's a bunch of lasers that are separated by space that are directed towards the cells that are being injected up through that pressure.
This sounds like the coolest lava lamp I've ever seen.
Kind of. But essentially, like the laser light hits it, and if there are certain proteins or genes that are present, and we've tried to measure for that, you'll get light that's given off, and we can detect that through photomultiplier tubes, and convert photons of light into photoelectrons, and then digitize a signal so that we can really do a whole bunch of different stuff. So essentially, I get to play with lasers all day, and I love it. And that's what I do. But it's a really cool technology. It's used around the world, and it's really really fun, and there's different ways the technology can be used, but it's awesome.
Okay, and this is what you start to get into in the next job.
Yeah, so I found I was looking for the job. I was living at home in Lindenhurst, and I found a job at Regeneron Pharmaceuticals for like a entry level position in their flow cytometry core facility. So it's something where you go up and like you process samples for people using all these instruments. So I went up and I took the drive up, and it's up in Westchester in Tarrytown. So the drive was beautiful. I fell in love with that. The campus was really gorgeous. I really liked Tarrytown, and I got the job. Like they had an ice cream truck on campus that day, and they're like, "Do you want some free ice cream?" Like, okay, like this is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory
Yeah.
here.
I'm an adult.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Uh,
And yeah, I lucked out and I got the job, and that was in May of 2013, and I've been in that field ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you move out a little closer to the city so you can commute.
Yeah, the first apartment I had was in Throgs Neck in the Bronx. So I wanted to save, I was making decent money. I could afford an apartment, in Throgs Neck, a 1 bedroom, but I didn't want to pay all those tolls. So,
Other
um,
side, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I wound up going over there for about a year, and then I realized no one wants to cross the bridge to visit me. So I wound up moving back to Lindenhurst and doing that commute for about 2+ years,
Oh no.
and paying off my student loans and everything.
Wow.
What was the longest it took you to get to or from work in that
Ugh.
time?
Probably the longest would be a 3-hour commute. It should have
One
taken
way or
one
both
way.
ways?
One way. Yeah. I drove, so I would aim to get there by 8. So I would leave at about 6:30 every
Okay.
morning, and I would leave at about 5, so I get home about like 7 usually. And yeah, that was a rough one, but it was worth it because I got to pay off my student loans and all that and save up a little bit. But it was a long 2 years of my life. And then
The classic move back home to
yeah,
get your shit together.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, so I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved out to Bayside just so I could be like, all right, I know people visit me here. They don't have to cross a bridge. And then I'm a lot closer to work, so it was just on the other side of the Throgs Neck.
So during this time, are you kind of like moving up in the company, kind of, gaining more responsibilities,
In charge of more lasers.
Yes, definitely in charge of more
better
lasers.
lasers? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually better lasers. It's funny, when I went for the interview, my who would have been my boss, Pat Burfind, walked me into this lab, and it was essentially this huge room with just one instrument in it, because it was a self sorter. So it's a cytometer where like you can use high voltage deflection plates to charge these droplets of fluid to deflect them and purify them out. So if you have like really rare populations that are in a big mix of sample, you could purify it out so that you have just that. But anyway, I started off just on that one instrument to learn everything, and it took up the size of a whole room. There was a big electronics table, an optical table, a huge electronics rack, and an old tube television that I monitored fluidic stability on. It was pretty wild, and yeah, I had to like align lasers every day, and if a laser went out of a certain alignment, I'd have to like put a piece of paper in and see if I could get it to like exact alignment, and sometimes lit stuff on fire. um but yeah, so it started off with just that, and then I was there for about 5 years, and when I left, I was the manager of the facility. Yeah. So I was lucky. I came in at a time when they were growing and the group was growing, and I just got in at the right time to kind of grow and learn.
So you're out of Bayside. You're moving up in your career. Um, so as far as like getting yourself situated as an adult, like what?
Still not there.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Is like kind of like now that you're self sufficient more or less. What's your outside of work time like? What's your leisure time like? Are you taking vacations finally?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, outside time, or time outside of work. I mean, now we have a house that's a little bit further out, so I definitely spend a little bit more time commuting now. But get home, I love reading, right? I love reading, doing all that stuff. recently started doing some gardening now that we're out here. So that's been really fun. And took a pottery class, which resulted in realizing that I really want a pottery wheel. So gonna wind up getting one of those. And I think I'm gonna spend a lot of my time doing that. But lately it's just been a lot of like settling into the new home and everything like that.
Right.
Do you have a vacation plan going to New Orleans for Halloween this year? So
Nice.
very excited
Spooky.
about that. Yeah.
One of the best times to go there for sure.
Yeah, I'm psyched. But yeah, as much as possible, like, like going on weekend trips, meeting friends from New York that we don't get to see all that often, go camping in Montauk, any opportunity just to like kind of spend time with friends from New York. And also, we're still really good friends with the Jacobinas who are up in New Hampshire. So they're about 45 minutes away. So we spend a lot of time with them up there.
You're also big into baking.
Oh,
And
that's
you
yes.
did go into business for yourself for a little while doing that.
For a brief period, my sisters and myself, yeah. So we were baking stuff and bringing it to the Better Bagel for a little bit, like cookie trays and all that. We were doing it on top of our job, so it was just hard to keep up with. But what we always did and what we always kept up with is like cake decorating and like making tiered cakes and just doing it for friends and family and through word of mouth. So that's definitely something I love doing. Haven't done it really much up here because there's no one that knows about it. So I haven't really advertised. But I do still love baking for sure. Just need a bigger kitchen now. Yeah. My sister
Okay.
still does it though. She's down in North Carolina now and she's selling cheesecakes like crazy. And people are like freaking out over them. So she might have herself a little business down in North Carolina doing that.
New York style cheesecake.
Exactly.
Bringing it to the people down south.
Yeah, they need it.
Right on. So, okay, so yeah, now you're in Massachusetts,
hmm
obviously. So what prompted the move there? Obviously, it was work, but how did that play out?
So I was working as a facility manager for the Flow Corps at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center for about 2.5 years. I was working with a colleague there who I really loved and respected quite a bit. And the thing is, I only have my bachelor's, and oftentimes to have your own lab in flow cytometry, you have to have your doctorate. And that's not something I was willing to do because you have to go to school for like 7 years at least, make like absolutely no money, like starve every day and work probably 15-hour days every day, including weekends and holidays, and you don't have a life. So I found something I really knew I liked, and to me, it wasn't beneficial to take a pause in my career to go back to school. So what I decided to do is just be on the lookout for any labs that didn't require that. They're not the easiest to find. They're definitely out there. And I always knew that I had a special place in my heart for New England. Like every time I visited friends up in Rhode Island or New Hampshire, I absolutely loved it. So I've been wanting to move up for a bit, and a position opened up at the Whitehead Institute for a head of a facility, the Flow Corps, there, and I interviewed, and I really, really liked the people. I liked the institute itself and what it stood for. It's really about like open access education, all that stuff. So I was lucky enough to be afforded the opportunity to join, and I kind of went for it and took it, and then wound up making the move up to Cambridge, and that was 2021.
That's still where you work?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, I was there for about a year and it was wonderful, but it was a little hard. It was my own fault. I came in during the pandemic, so things were a little bit slower, and Sloan was an incredibly busy place and I got used to chaos. So I went from helping we had 700 users. We had like an insane number of instruments. We had all these people that we were supporting every single day. Like I work crazy hours. And then I went to this lab where it was just me supporting one small building. And I got a little bit too antsy, and I needed more challenges. So I currently work at a biotech that had reached out to me, Sana Biotech, and I'm leading the flow core there. But it's the next block over. So
Wow.
yeah, my commute stayed the same, but just the position changed a little bit.
So do you see any new like developments on the horizon with what you do, or any new implementation of the technology as far as medicine or anything like that goes?
The flow is being used all the time, so it's interesting. It's used in research all the time. It's used in like clinical testing all the time. So if you get samples taken for like blood samples taken at a hospital, it's being run on a cytometer, a flow cytometer. Things like that are happening all the time. But there have been recent advances where like it used to be very restricted to a certain number of parameters that you could look at the same time because of the traditional way the instruments were set up. But that's kind of been blown wide open in the past couple of years. Kind of expanded on what we can look at with it through new technology called full spectrum cytometry. So that's one of the most recent things that's really cool. And just recently they started adding like imaging components to some of these instruments. So that might potentially help a lot of people around the world do more expanded research. So that's probably the coolest thing that's come out in the past couple of years.
So the technology itself is being
Yeah.
improved upon as we go.
Exactly. And there's, and scientific research has really like, since when I started being involved with some of this stuff 10 years ago to now, the research in general that's happening, like it goes above and beyond what I could probably ever comprehend. Like I work with researchers every day that just blow my mind with how intelligent they are and the stuff that they're doing. So it's a lot of cool things happening.
And you get to soak up all that smarts.
I don't know. I try. I try. I'm like, do you want to use a cytometer? I get to help them, and it's one very niche area, but I get to work with some wildly intelligent people. Yeah,
Here, I'll fire up the machine for you.
exactly. I'll teach you how to use it. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, winding down, but we have a game we'd like to play with you
Okay.
as a Lindenhurst native.
Sure.
I'll let John
Yes.
take the reins here.
So at the end of every show, we like to ask people what are their favorite and least favorite things in Lindenhurst, going down like rapid fire categories here. We call it the best and worst of the Hearst.
Okay. I
So-
like it.
We start with pizza places. To your recollection, what is the best pizza you can get in Lindenhurst?
Used to be Imperial. Now it's Geno's.
So you feel like Imperial has lost something over time?
Lost everything over time.
Gotcha. It lost you over time, most
Yes.
importantly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there a specific year you can remember when it lost it, or it's been a minute?
Probably in the early 2000s. I wasn't willing to accept it until about 2010.
Gotcha.
It was
Okay.
a denial phase. Yeah.
We moved from pizza to Chinese food.
The best is Dockley Law.
Wow.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yeah.
No controversy. And Doc was the best. He told me I was like a granddaughter to him, and he taught me how to say 1 through 10 in Mandarin.
Rest in power, Doc.
Yes,
And
100%.
this is not just because he served you alcohol underage.
He did
or-
not. He never did.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
I was his granddaughter. He would never.
He's no longer with us, so they
I
can't
know.
prosecute. Yeah.
I know. I'm very well aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, I enjoyed Dockley Lau as a kid too. I mean, I haven't been in probably 25 years, but
Never been there.
I used to get it delivered, and I would cut out the little things to say how much we spent, and then I would get a free lunch special about once every 2 weeks delivered to the house, and they wouldn't even charge me to deliver it. That's how much. Yeah, I was that
They just
kid.
brought you food.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
We will throw what is the worst pizza? Worst Chinese food rather in Lindenhurst.
I don't know. Maybe Tang's. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not into family style?
No, not for me. Not for me. I need my own special combination plate.
Gotcha.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Oh, your favorite hangout spot. Where do you enjoy hanging out in Lindenhurst? Be it someone's house, outdoors somewhere, a park,
Oh,
coffee
definitely.
shop?
Christina Gallo's house. We had some fun
There you
nights
go.
there. Yeah.
Okay. Any places that you just have straight up bad memories of? Like some people, it's the entire middle school. People don't like that place at all.
Oh, you mean the bad place? Let's go with that one. Yeah. Middle
Sure.
school. Yeah.
Okay.
I conveniently missed it as a Catholic
Yeah.
school.
Yes. You guys are lucky.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Favorite band from Lindenhurst?
Silent Majority.
Okay. Also pretty unanimous there, I think.
Yeah.
We won't ask the worst band. We don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Unless it's
Okay.
one we were in, then we can take it.
Yeah.
Okay. No, you guys are good. You guys are good.
Well, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Well, that brings us to our final question then. If you were to describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
It's a party for sure. It's a party. It's a party. It's not a fancy party, but one
Or
of the
a great party all the time, but a party nonetheless.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like a solid party you could rely on. So
Mhm.
that's probably the best way to describe it. It's gonna have some ups and it's gonna have some downs for sure, but you'll have a good time.
That's going to have to go on a piece of merchandise. A solid party you can rely on.
Yeah. There we go.
Bring ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Kathy.
Awesome.